Journey to God's House, Chapter 6, entitled, Hey, Let's Welcome the New Guy by Maiming Him. So, Brock Talon, the author, goes on to relate how it was kind of frightening and scary in the beginning of his journey to God's house. He was assigned to work in the factory making Bible literature, and that was such an esteemed privilege because he was making Bible literature that would save lives before the end of this wicked system of things. It was truly a holy work among Jehovah's Witnesses. He mentions that his duties were mundane and it took great effort to get used to them and his new lifestyle. There was new food to get used to because Bethel serves you food, and the little stipend that you have isn't enough to buy your own food. You had to get used to all the walking in New York City. It's nothing but walking. He had to get used to the local culture there. And most importantly, he had to get used to the new schedule that Bethelites have. He remembers passing out exhausted every night during his first few weeks there, and I can attest that it is a different schedule and it's tough for anyone. And he says that although they fed him well, he was always hungry, and he actually lost weight at first until he could get accustomed to this new lifestyle. And for me, I can attest to that, being fed well but always hungry, and that's because of the way dinner is served there in such a large environment of tables. It's not really personable, and for those who have large appetites like myself, it's hard to just dump a whole bunch of food on your plate that you would normally do anyways at home because you don't want to look bad among others. So you get meager amounts, and then you hopefully pray to Jehovah that there's leftovers at the end of the meal so you can kind of scarf everything down the last couple of minutes. But I digress. Moving on. He mentions that in the early 80s, it was a golden age for bodybuilding. And he had a faithful routine. So he was a good size himself. People like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Lou Ferrigno were household names and people that he looked up to. So he had his own workout routine, so he wasn't too shabby himself. But one day he was taking a break among the boxes on the factory floor. It was late in the day. He was tired, and he was reading his Bible because that's required of New Bethelites, is to read the Bible cover to cover in the amount of 365 days. So 4 guys that he recognized from the locker room started approaching him, and he kind of had a bad feeling about it because those guys had pretty much ignored him the first week or so, and now they were approaching him. Didn't feel right, so they make some small talk about how much he can bench, and then next thing you know, they are going to start hazing him. One of the guys says that they like to initiate new guys here by power lifting them into the trash bin. So Brock was like, "What? You're going to drop me into that 6-foot tall trash bin over there? It's empty," and he could get hurt. But to no avail, they start closing in on him, getting closer and closer. And he's trying to talk his way out of it, but that's not working. So he had to go from scared, angry flight mode to fight mode, full on fight mode. And this is what he says. "Okay, here's the deal, assholes. I have no doubt the 4 of you together can probably overpower me and make me get into that trash can. But I swear to you this. The first one of you that touches me is going to get my full fury. I will break his freaking face wide open break his arm off if I have to. The other 3 of you will have to pry me off that guy and have to get his eyeballs back from my hands. That got their attention. And so they try and play it off and make it sound like they weren't going to do anything. They were just joking. But I'm pretty sure they were going to throw him in that trash bin. So he mentions that he doesn't know whether they were going to do it or not, but he had never been menaced like that before in his life, and never again was he menaced like that. It was only in God's house that he had been treated that way, and it just so happened to be within his first few days of being at God's house. He later learned that this type of hazing is done. It's a long time Bethel tradition. Some are benign, and other hazing is very dangerous. So he never looked at Bethel the same way. They took away his innocence in the first few days at Bethel. He had looked forward to being in what Jehovah's Witnesses call a spiritual paradise, but that had all changed within this first week or so. He learned to be more on the lookout for more jerks like these 3 guys while living at God's house. This concludes this chapter. Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to my summary of the book, Journey to God's House. Post your comments, like and share this video, subscribe to my channel. Stay tuned for the next chapter.